Welcome everyone to our August 27th Zoom event. So glad to see you. This is, by the way, our 10th. This is number 10. Give a little wave or throw it in the chat if you have attended all 10 of our Zoom events. And in the meantime, I'm Sean Sheehy. I'm the director of the Movable Book Society. So delighted to be one of your co-hosts this evening. Also with us this evening is Emily Martin. Emily.
Hello. I have attended all of them.
Good. Also with us tonight is Kyra Hicks, chat mistress. Kyra, word from you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm in Arlington, Virginia, and I think I've attended 9 of them. I think there's one I couldn't make.
Super. And Isabel Uria, our wrangler of folks out in the ether, word from you.
Hello, everybody. Over here is, East Coast, super hot today, 91 degrees. So like I'm wearing barely any clothes because it's just so hot. So hello to everybody in the East Coast suffering through this heat wave.
And a very spicy introduction from Isabel. Nice. All right, so we are delighted as always. Have a lively group of folks that are gonna present for us this evening. And we're gonna start with Eric Greenberg, who we are pleased to have a collector who's got some things about collecting to talk about. Eric also joined us for the conference in Denver. He has a really meaty website, and you can find him at Pop-Up Dude. And aside from books, Eric also has an amazing resource page on his website, and I would totally recommend going there and looking at that in terms of interviews and media stuff and tutorials. Lots and lots of good stuff on there. Eric is joining us this evening with some bouncy internet. We're going to definitely have Eric say a few words and answer questions at the end. If internet is working out, it's doing so far all right. And also, I asked Eric if he wanted to share a brief anecdote of a hard to get collectible. And he mentioned that he's been working on the Bucano series for a while, and he's just recently snagged number 10, ordering it from Ulysses Books in Ireland. So that's a victory. So Emily, roll tape.
Okay, so Sean, you're gonna have to go back to admitting people.
Got it.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me here to talk about my pop-up book collection. And I hope that I can share the love that I have for my pop-ups to everyone here. I've been collecting for about 4 years, but let me tell you how it started. I never had pop-ups as a kid, and I never had pop-ups for my kids either. So how did I start collecting? What pushed me in that direction? I have been a collector of a lot of different things throughout my life, everything from stamps to outsider art. But I guess it was kind of destiny to get into pop-up books, given that my father-in-law, Arthur Jaffe, was the founder of the Jaffe Book Art Center and seen most of his books as he was collecting them. But there aren't many pop-up books there. However, I am used to the three-dimensional because my wife, Jeannie Jaffe, she's a professor emeritus of sculpture at the University of the Arts. So it seemed like a natural. Then one afternoon, I was at the Jaffe Center, and there was this exhibit out, and I'm walking around, and this pop-up just hits me. It's Robert Sabuta's Alice in Wonderland, and it just hit me. And that's when I knew I was going to collect pop-up books. Now, I have about 1,000 pop-up books. Most of the pop-up books start around 1935. I don't have any of the really early ones, but I start with a couple of concentrations. One is the Bucano collection, which started in the 1930s. And if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that's where a lot of the Bucanos are. I also love the illustrations. Some of the best illustrators ever was Julian Ware and Kubashta, and I do collect. I have a concentration in those and have quite a number from each of those people. Now, in addition to the books, I also have about 100 pop-up advertisements. They were used in magazines, in giveaways, and in a variety of other ways as well. So here's one pop-up. This was for Pepsi Jazz. It was in 2006. Beautiful, and it actually, when you opened it, it had some music. Unfortunately, the ad wasn't good enough to keep selling the Pepsi because it only lasted from 2006 to 2009. Another fun piece is my Disney map. This was made as a souvenir map for the 35th anniversary of Disneyland in 1990. Nice big piece. It's like 18 by 26 inches. Then I look at the Wrigley Chewing Gum series. This is their zoo series. They had about 12 animals and they put them each into a scene. Here we see two of them, the bears and the monkeys. And they were done in the 60s. What I have here is two that are still in copies of the Jack and Jill magazine from 1966. The other thing that I like and find fascinating are the different pop-up mechanisms. So here's one. This is Simon Arizpe's piece. And as I'll quote, was a new form of storytelling that allows the reader to interact with the book in a whole new way. And I think it does. Beautiful piece. And he's also the winner of the Society of Illustrators Award of Excellence. Then we get to a book that I first learned about at the September 21 Movable Book Society convention, where Emily Brooks, the designer of it, was giving a presentation. And I just loved it, thought it was great engineering and had to have it. So in fact, I went up to my room and I called in and I bought it. And after that, I kept buying because they got 5 different versions. And of course, as a collector, I have them all. The next one is the Roly Poly box books. Now, I got these from Ellen Rubin. When she was changing her location, she needed to sell a few things to make room for everything in her new library. I got this one and I thought it was a fascinating piece. So I looked at it and I found out that there were lots of them, about a dozen that were done. And this was done as a master's thesis about 25 years ago. And it took him 25 years before he could actually produce one commercially. The initial publisher was Child's Play. Then there's the bookmobiles. These were done by Miriam Shapiro in 1993. They are mobiles and they look great hung up. As a matter of fact, I have them right now in my office, all 4 of them hanging up. So this is just another view of numbers. And here are the 4 different ones that Miriam Shapiro did back in the 90s. Kaleidoscope, Alphabet, Crazy Clothes, and Numbers. Another thing that interests me are when books really ignite a child's imagination. Once a week or so, I usually go over to my grandkids. They're 4 and 6. And I bring over a bunch of books and we go through them and we read them. And one of their favorites that just gets them going is Pretend You're a Hippo by Carla Deege from 1993. The pop-ups are simple, the illustrations are strong, and the kids love it. What they do, they're crawling around on the floor, pretending to be hippos, whales, sharks, and everything else. and they just have a ball and they keep asking me to bring that book back. Has similar experiences with Midnight Creatures from Helen Friel. This is one which is all about shadows, where you're looking for creatures and often you're in the dark shining a light, and it really gets them involved. Let me move on to Little Tree by Katsumi Komagata. He called it a quiet pop-up book. Okay, it was done in 2008. And he said, usually pop-up books are very loud, which is fun to watch. But then I thought, why not have a very quiet pop-up book? So this is what he did, Little Tree. And it's a simple and beautiful book that shows the life cycle of a tree. Another artist, bookmaker that I really like is Philip Ugg, who did a number of books. This one is Funny Birds, which was done in 2011. Now, it's very simple pop-ups, great colors, and again, one of my favorite books. And doesn't hurt that my wife also happens to be a bird lover, so that works as well. A similar kind of quiet book is Creatures of the Deep. This one by Makey Biederstadt from 2016. Here, I really like the illustration style. It's bold, colorful, quite beautiful. Simpler pop-ups. Let me say thanks, by the way, to popupbooks.com for allowing me to use their videos. And this is one of theirs. And they're quite great. You should look them up on the internet and take a look at their videos. Okay, now we go to some of the louder pop-up books like Matthew Reinhardt's The Nightmare Before Christmas. This was based on a Tim Burton movie. It's got lots of different pop-ups, lots of interaction, and given that it was a Tim Burton story, they're often a bit quirky and scary. And this book was done for the 25th anniversary of the movie. This is a whole area that I really love. This happens to be the Necromium, but it's one of the Proposition Press's books. It was done in 2016. The art is by Skinner, and the paper engineering is by Roston Meyer. And this is just one of their great books. I love what they produce, and so far, I've been able to get all of them. Another area of concentration that I have is Chinese books. And of course, they're coming into their own these days. And last year, Wang Wei for Forbidden City won the Meggendorfer Prize. This is 1001 Nights, done in 2020. It's about 4 foot long when it's opened. I'm not sure about who's the paper engineer because I can't quite find it since I don't speak Chinese. But like I said, there's lots more great Chinese books, and I have quite a number of them. And let me just add a few favorites that I have in my collection. I have the Andy Warhol Index book from 1967. And as a matter of fact, Proposition Press and the Andy Warhol Society are in the process of putting together another Andy Warhol book with many of his iconic items that are put into pop-ups. I've ordered it. I can't wait to get it. Here's another simple one. This is Kren's theater album. This is from 1943, and I'm glad to say it's in pretty good condition. It's intricate, well-illustrated scenes. I love the book. And finally, I've got a book by Sam Ida. Now, Sam Ida is one of my favorites. I love his pop-up style, and I like the way he uses the graphic novel style. This is, Tokyo, and it's a comic adventure. I have about 500 favorites, so it was really difficult to figure out which ones I wanted to be part of this presentation. But I made the choice, and there are lots of others. And if you'd like to see them, just go to popupdude.com, and they're all there. You can click through, you can see pictures, you can see information on them. And in addition, on the website, there's a section called resources, where you have access to a lot of the interviews of collectors, artists, and how-to videos, and videos about the history of pop-up books. These are the things that I've come across in my travels as I was learning about pop-up books, and I just wanted to put them in a place where I could share them with you. Thank you very much.
Super. Thanks, Eric.
My pleasure.
Piles of fun comments that came in. I, like several of you, was admiring that fishing line that was opening the books. Where did that video come from? Who had that great idea? Whatever about engineering. I want to see how these folks are opening things.
I have a friend who is an audio engineer for many years and also does photography. So he helped me put together the moving videos of the various mechanisms, roly-poly box books and the bookmobiles, as well as opening the Chinese book. So we made those videos ourselves.
Another interesting comment, Newman, who is joining us from China, mentions that the book from China is made by some Chinese paper engineers, and it's not made by a single person. That's interesting to know.
Yeah, that's why I love the Movable Book Society. I was watching the comments and was learning a lot, since I'm pretty much I'll call myself a novice. It was good to hear some of the comments and learn about it. So that was terrific.
Emily, do you have a question you want to pull out?
There was one about the info from Keys about that maybe Ellen could expand on. Keys told the Movable Book Study he couldn't think of a way to use them, but then came up with these books. Is that the roly-polies?
Yes.
Yes, that was the roly-poly.
Yeah.
He did a presentation at one of our conferences, and he said that the roly-poly, he had done it as his thesis over 25 years ago, but it languished because he couldn't figure out what to do with it, and then he must have had the aha moment.
Nice. Kyra would like to know what your what's your storage situation, Eric?
Well, I just have a lot of bookshelves in my office. And so far, I still have enough room. Although my wife has so many books in the arts, and I've started throwing hers out of my office and putting in the pop-up books.
Yeah.
So far, I've had room for all 1,000 of them.
Whew!
And still have some more.
Yeah, that's a good pile. Eric, say 100 words, if you will, about Bucano for Seth, please.
100 words. I think it's an amazing series. You know, one at the beginning of, I guess, the modern style of pop-ups. And I think it's fascinating that they were put together, as I understand, as a cottage industry. And I've noticed a few things that as a cottage industry, I have several copies of the same book. And I noticed in a couple of the pop-ups, there are different medallions and different things going on. So if you look at the details, it's very interesting. Also, I haven't figured it out. I just noticed it today in the new book that I got, that all the pages, a lot of the pages have letters on them at the bottom, little letters, A, B, through, I think, K. I haven't figured out, maybe that was for the printer on how to put them together. But, and it's very hard to get them in good condition. And I'm happy to say I've got about 10 of them now that are in perfect condition. All the pop-ups working.
Nice.
And Kyra has put a link in about the Bacano books from a Google search. So just keep and repeated Eric's website, and there's a lot of information there and in the chat. And we'll also be the video will be up again. So the whole video, you'll be able to see this again, so you can admire these books again.
Yeah. I don't know if Kyra found Michael Dawson's site, or he wrote also for Movable Stationery. He was a specialist in the Bucanos and contributed so much of what we know about them.
Excellent. Beth is asking me personally how many books I own. Beth, more than 10, less than 1,000. somewhere in there. Super. Let us roll on. You have Eric's info. If you wanna throw any more questions, feel free to contact him directly. Pop up, dude, or throw them in the chat. Paul Short, are you out there? Okay. Paul is our next presenter, and we haven't seen Paul yet, so I think we're going to have to either save Paul for later this evening or save him for next time around. In the meantime, we've crossed the 100 barrier, which means that we've got lots of video rolling right now. So if things are a little choppy on your side, you might want to turn off your video, and it might help with your bandwidth. So far, things from here look fine, but it might help you out. Okay. That means that we're heading our way to you slightly sooner. Are you ready to roll?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I'm going to introduce you. So is the lead paper engineer at Love Pop. We all know Love Pop and love ourselves some Love Pop, all those slice forms. She holds a bachelor's in a mix of mechanical engineering and architecture from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a master in furniture design from the Rhode Island School of Design. Ho'o currently teaches 3D illustration at Parsons and has previously taught courses at Pratt and RISD. She was the maker in residence at Skidmore College and has previously worked in design and production for events, exhibitions, and entertainment. Ho'o is a member of the curatorial collective Icons at Play, which curates designs and produces art jewelry exhibitions. She is of native Hawaiian descent and is currently working on Hawaiian language pop-up book. Collective friends, how many of those have we seen? We're overdue. So pull out your pieces that you printed and cut and scored and maybe colored a little bit. Get out some glue. It's all you.
All right. So hi, I'm Ho'o. Sean said I could actually share a couple of Love Pop things that are upcoming. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I don't, these are not out yet, but they're things that I've been working on. A lot of the Love Pop stuff that I make is not slice form. This is a removable that should be out anytime. This is a mock-up, so it's not as blingy as it should be, but it.
Whoa!
Oh.
So
again, please.
So I used to teach at Pratt in the jewelry department, actually, so it's a little homage to them. But here we've got our brilliant cut, pop-up ring. So there's that, and also there's a series that's upcoming, I think next month. It's going to be released that I've been spearheading. It's very, very different than what Love Pop has made in the past. It is called the Shout Out series. So you guys are getting a sneak peek of this kind of early prototypes. So this is, now I'm big. This is the first deck that's going to be released. It's called the Be Bold deck. It was a collaboration that I did with an awesome graphic designer called, her name is Francisca Stetter. And so it's very vibrant, kind of different colored envelopes and cards. And so let's open one. See if I can strange opening like this. So
Nice.
yeah, so this is the first of kind of a number of them that are going to be released. So next month, very excited about these. All right, so that's my spiel about Love Pop.
Also,
Vegan-
Ho'o has just this evening dropped into the chat her So Fresh It's Hot website. So you can check out whatever she's managed to get on there since Friday.
yeah,
Wednesday, right? It was Wednesday.
work in progress, but there are some things up there. So, all right, so on to our little fishy tonight. So just a little backstory on kind of the inspiration behind this. As children, Native Hawaiian children, we learn a song that describes different reef fish that we like to eat. And there are a few verses, but this one is inspired by the first verse. I'm gonna save you from my singing and I'll just recite it. So it goes, He manini ke ia, he kaha kaha, e ai kako awe ka onoe. So it says, basically, this is a surgeon fish. It is a striped fish. Let's eat, oh, it tastes so good. So that was kind of the inspiration behind, this little guy. And he's actually a simplification of one that I kind of previously made. I didn't know if you guys wanted to cut out, I don't know, what is this, like 20 pieces? So I simplified it for you guys. So 8 it is. All right, so I'm gonna switch screens. Hopefully you guys already cut this out and scored and colored this side, not this side, so it'll end up kind of like that. Oh no, my camera's not working anymore.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. Did I unplug it by accident?
I just re-dropped Ho'o's web address in the chat, so you don't have to dig back super far to find it. And we can give Ho'o some fam time and you can go check out her website. Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Okay, found it. All right. Is up? Yeah, that's up. All right. So here we go. So hopefully you have all your pieces. Let me bring a little more light in. Oh, maybe that made it worse. And the way I like to do it is I like to, I don't know, for me, it's all about preparation. So I put all the R's on the right and all the L's on the left, and I kind of line them up. L3, L2, R3, R2, R1, L1, eyeball. Oh no, I'm missing my other eyeball. Oh, here it is. Okay, so that's how I like to get set up, just to make it easy to grab pieces later. So we'll start with actually the 2 tail pieces. So this is, I always put R in my right hand and L in my left hand. It's just easier. And we're gonna take R, and you see the little opening at the very back by the tail, and you'll just slide it in to this same section here in L. So just and then put the lock in so that we have, oh, this, yeah. All right. So next we'll continue up kind of these different vertebrae pieces. So we'll grab L2. And again, same, you want to use this wiggly back section with the lock, and you're going to slide it into R1 up here and lock it there. So we're going to slide it. So it's locked in. All right. And then we're going to do L3. And again, you're going to take the last slice here and you're going to hook it over here. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. That's okay. We can fix it. What I forgot to do was I did not fold all of my score lines. It is easier if you do that ahead of time, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So I missed a couple here. All right. So hopefully it's all there. Okay, so now we want to flip it over. So we're on the white side. And we're actually going to lock this piece into this piece here. All right. So now you kind of see we have somewhat of an eyeball shape forming. And what we're going to do is put glue on the back of one of our eyeballs, line it up, and just glue it on down there. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And I won't pay too much for forgetting to score ahead of time and fold. All right, so we have our little eyeball on. And we can actually open it up and you see kind of the beginnings of the slice form folding. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close it back up again. So it's all black, work in the back. I'm going to open it in this kind of grid formation, and then I'm going to actually move from the eyeball back. So I'm going to grab this one, R3, and this time I'm going to remember to fold both sides before I put this on. And again, the one with the lock here is going to go over the fin here on L1. So this little fin. Open it up. Slide it down and in, and then put the locking piece in. All right, so you can see it's starting to take shape. And then the last piece that we're going to slot in is this R2. I'm going to remember to fold again this time. Going to open it up like so, and then slide it on down. And just make sure that you leave this folded piece out. It doesn't go in yet. So just slide it on down. Slip the lock in. All right, so it's starting to look good. So now we're going to put his last little eyeball on. So we'll slip this again over here. And I actually forgot that I wasn't supposed to glue the whole eyeball, so it's a little too sticky, but I'll put glue on this side this time. All right, the eyeball down. All right, and let's see if the fishy is there. I think. Flatten him out, and he should be good to go.
Cute.
Hopefully that wasn't too complicated. But yeah, enjoy.
Let's do a quick gallery view. And hopefully all of you have been working along. I've been working along and taking notes and doing some clicking. I'm not done yet, so you're not going to see mine. But here's gallery. Show us your fish, everybody. Let's take a look at them. Did anyone do any coloring that's going to be fun to see on camera? Ooh, yeah, Sharon. Look at Sharon. Lots of red and yellow, and then she dropped it. Sorry, Sharon.
I couldn't get it together fast enough, but I think it'll be cute when it's done, when I figure it out.
Yes. Yes. Rolling over in the land of folks who are video free right now. Scrolling back to the front. Lovely, lovely. Emily, were you able to follow along the whole time and get something together?
No, I was not. I also, I was admitting people and monitoring chat and various other things, and I have,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to keep them to myself
Yeah.
at the moment. But I
focus.
yes. And there are mostly just lots of thank yous and comments of that sort. Newman has asked if you would share how to make the diamond paper ring, which I think might be a little beyond us for this evening. But
proprietary, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah, proprietary as well. We could ask Ho to come back for another, not necessarily that one, but another demo project at some point.
Yeah, yeah. And for sure, that's going to be, it's all recorded and the video is going to go up probably in 10 days, more or less. So you can you can review it and go as slow as you need, slow as you like.
Yes, and the how-to videos or the make-along project are always posted separately as well as the whole Zoom. So you can concentrate on Ho'os alone if you need to kind of finish your project.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you very much, Ho. Nice project.
I'm gonna make mine tomorrow. Finish mine tomorrow.
Might be a nice thing to hang from somewhere. It's just kind of floating in space.
Or to make a whole lot of them, have a whole.
Make a bunch of them, right? Right. Sweet. Okay.
Question about the diamond ring project, because that like blew up the chat briefly, where there was much covetous chatting about everybody wants a diamond ring. When will these be available?
They should be out any day. They don't tell me exact release dates, unfortunately, but it's been a long enough period since I've made it and it's been in production that it should be released any day. And it actually comes inside of a card right now. In the future, we might have some standalones, but it's a removal within a card right now.
Is there a link that will get folks to the right purchase page, even if it's not listed to be purchased yet?
Oh, no, I don't have that.
Okay.
Just,
okay.
lovepops.com.
Yeah, just Love Pops and look for that big flashy ring.
Yep.
Can't go wrong. All right, last call, Paul. Paul, have you joined us?
I think not.
I think not. So Ed, in this spectacular royal purple shirt, because he is royalty, and he's wearing a Ed, keep doing that a couple more times, and I'm gonna get in close on you. Which one are you? Artist Books?
He's Artist Books.
Or no, are you operating out of Ed Hutchins now? There we go. Ed, one more time, please.
Okay, this is Fimo Clay pin by Kathy Amt, a book pin. And she creates these loaves of Fimo Clay and then just slices them off.
Nice.
So it seemed like an appropriate one to wear tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just the right scatter pin makes the outfit, doesn't it?
It totally does. So Ed, let me introduce you.
Please.
I've known Ed for a ton of years, and most of you have known Ed for a ton of years. And I think that I first met Ed on evening in 2004, because Ed had just curated that Stand and Deliver exhibition, which was co-hosted with the Movable Book Society way back in the way back. And the conference that year was in San Diego, and the exhibition, which had traveled, was up on display in San Diego. And and the big takeaway beyond some great books and the loveliness that is Ed was, Ed moving around the room, he's getting names, he's getting deets, and then he goes up to present, and all of this is just in his head and available. and flawlessly presented, startling and astonishing. So, so here's another amazing fact about Ed Hutchins. He was early enough on the scene that he snagged artistbooks.com. He's the guy at that URL. Another amazing fact about Ed, he was first featured in Movable Stationery in 1997 in an article that was written by our own Ellen G.K. Rubin 25 years ago. Another fact, Ed has his own library, like standalone structure library with so many fun books in it. Still making books. Ed's got just a ton of books available, editions, titles for sale on his website. He's just rolling and rolling and rolling. And he's a guy that's got one of the biggest hearts in the world. So Ed and Emily, let's roll it.
Okay.
Well, hello, everyone. I have to tell you, I've looked at the participants tonight, and I feel that this is more fun than Thanksgiving dinner to see all of you and to be here with you. I especially want to call out two participants. Corey Allegro is here from Australia, and Amber Pass, she's not only ahead of her time, it's Sunday in India, where she's calling in from. There was a book of Amber's that I really wanted to show you tonight, but I figured that's her book. And if you want her to show it to you, you're going to have her on your program. As far as Sean Sheehy goes, the first time I met Sean was at the Milwaukee Movable Book Society. This young kid shows up with this pop-up he made from cereal boxes. And it was so stunning. I grabbed him and I said, you've got to go meet Robert Sabuda. And that, of course, was our first look at Welcome to the Neighborhood, something that we've all treasured over the many years. And don't even get me started about Emily and Kyra Hicks, all wonderful friends, and Ellen Rubin and Laura Russell. I mean, everyone, I'm so thrilled to be here. But the reason that we're here is to talk about some of the books. And we're going to start here with Cacophony. And that was one of the finalists for the Mengendorfer Prize the last time around. And the way it works is that you just pulls open and you have all these wonderful sounds. But Emily has a great, there's an amazing movie about Cacophony on the website, and Kyra's going to give you the link to it. But it's 9 minutes, and if I showed it tonight, that would take 1/3 of my time with you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you an outcut from one of it, some material that wasn't included in the movie. So Emily, if you have it, would you roll the Cacophony movie, please?
I will.
Well, what we want to do now is to take this edge on the right and to move it through this slot. And as you know, there's a mainline slot that's going to sit in, and then there are two sidings that we can use to move it into position. But before we go through that, let's take a quick scenic look inside, because this white part is going to wrap around to form an interior chamber, so that clickety-clack starts here, but then clackety ends here. And the O of Oompa starts here, it ends here. And if all works well, this great splat medallion will be seen through the splat window, and ping will be seen through its viewing port. So let's see how it works. We're going to start by taking this edge, we're going to put it through the slot, there it goes, right in there. And now we've got to put these 3 fingers through that hole. And in order to do that, we need to use my patented finger holder, which may look slightly like a folded piece of paper, which is going to wrap those fingers around the back, and we're going to slide all 3 of them through so that they come through, and then we remove that paper. And the interesting thing here is that, you see, you want to be a paper wrangler. You want to wrangle the paper into shape, but you don't want to be a paper mangler and destroy or damage it. So at this point, we can move this panel up on the siding, up on top, so that on the bottom, it will slide into position and the words line up. And at this case, I can now drop it down and snap it into place so that the words line up here. And you see how splat comes through the window. And if we turn it around here, ping comes through the viewing port. And now we have the two pieces of paper joined and we're ready for the next section.
Okay, back to you, Ed.
Okay, so thank you so much. I want to tell you two things about the movie. One of them is that I give credit to Joe Friedman for doing the vector diagrams. And Joe Friedman and I are really glad to have this opportunity to tell you that it was actually his wife, Alicia Helfman, who did the vector diagram. So we're glad to set the record straight on that. And the second thing I want to tell you is the movie that you're going to see later when you go to YouTube was put together by Jane Klieg. And many of you know her. You may not realize it. Oh, don't worry. The rabbit patrol has just spotted a rabbit. Jane Klieg, the deal is that she produced all the videos for Duncan Birmingham, who she's married to. And so I asked her if she would help. One of the nicest experiences I've ever had. It's a wonderful movie. Please check it out. Now, I was just going to mention that Cacophony is an exercise in simplicity because it's just 4 pieces of paper that get 4 scores. It gets slotted together and you end up with this incredible book. Now, this of course brings up the next question that you're all asking, what are you working on now? And we're going to go from this exercise in simplicity to an exercise in complexity. And this is called Stargazer. And Emily is going to show you a quick introduction to Stargazer.
You, Ed.
Great. Stargazer, like all my books these days, started a long time ago. In this case, it was 30 years ago. In 1992, I made this wonderful little book called Parting Wish. And Parting Wish is a story where all the pages are connected and the parts for Parting Wish all fit on one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with darn little waste. And because all the pieces were along the bottom, I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if they kind of moved up and down? So that's where we started thinking about Stargazer. And originally it was to be comb bound. But then thanks to Elisa Golden, then I started thinking about the tab binding. And it seemed a little small, so this got moved up to 11 by 17. And finally it got to be 2 11 by 17 sheets of paper. This was all done when we were wintering over in Atlanta this winter. And this is what it looked like before a single star was added. And we got all the stars together. Then we finally got the book all came together. It fits in this wonderful portfolio. Joe Friedman laser cut the pieces for me. And not only that, this was all offcuts from another job that he had. So he provided the paper as well. And it goes in the storage box. This was to be a mailing box, but it just turned out so nice. I decided it's a good storage box. And this has to do with a wonderful collector that I had in Tucson, Arizona, that didn't like small books because they got lots on his bookshelf. So I used to have to make big clamshell boxes where these little books would fit into, so it would fit on his shelf. So he'd be really happy with this one. Now, just to, you think you do a book and that's it, but there's so much more to it, which includes like coming up with the frame for the box, for the promotion card, the promotion letter, the portfolio. But it does keep me off the streets at night, and I am not I'm not loose on the wild streets of Salem. Everyone knows how bad that is. So these are the nesting sheets for the book. Susan Scher, who's here tonight, along with Paula Krieg, and their class of Xinjiang Bao students are here. So welcome, and it's nice of you to come. I'm really honored. Susan was at the studio not that long ago, and she picked up a connection between my love of Japanese wood blocks from the 19th century called tate banko, and what I'm doing here, because those were designed to be cut out and assembled into scenes, and this is designed to be cut out and assembled into a book. Now, I have some exciting news for you. Just minutes ago, we posted a new video of Stargazer on YouTube, and Kyra's going to give you the link. Don't do it now because it's 9 minutes. I don't want you to miss anything. But afterwards, you have to check this out. Steve put it together, and we go from start to finish putting Stargazer together, and it makes it look so simple. You'll really get a kick out of it, especially the sound effects. So enjoy that. Now, the question that has just come up is, what do I have in my pocket? Well, frankly, it's none of your business. But as a matter of fact, I do have something in my pocket. And even though I have a great affection for all of you, I want you to know it's a pop-up. It's a pocket pop-up. In this case, it says, "Thanks very much." And these are one of a series of pop-ups that I keep in my pocket when I go out in the world, because they're always nice people and it's nice to give them something to say hello. So Emily is going to show you a video now of some of the other pocket pop-ups. But we just wanted to show you the different varieties of things that you can carry in your pocket to say hello to folks. So these are some of the nesting sheets for the different pop-ups that I did. And because this is such a special occasion, I have a special offer for members who attend this meeting. If you send me an email message, and Kyra is going to post my email address for you, and send me an address, I will send you a pocket pop-up. And I'm not going to make any promises, but I think the one that I'm working on now answers the question, What made the lobster blush? So if you're interested, send me an email message. And I have to tell you, you can't say, please send it to me. You have to send it a snail mail address, because without a snail mail address, I can't mail it to you. So please do that. Now, one of the questions that people are always asking is, what is your favorite pop-up book? And I have to admit, just as said earlier this evening, I've only got about 500 of them. But I needed to pick one tonight. So what I picked for you was a book called the Whatchamacallit book. And I guarantee none of you have seen it yet. So Emily, if you run the video, we'll get all set up for that. Thank you.
This is what we call the Whatchamacallit book. And that's because everybody had a title for the book and we couldn't decide which one to use. So we decided to include all the titles, and you can pick which one you want at any given reading. This was part of an after-school program, and each student created 10 copies of a 4-panel pop-up story that we included to create this volume. For example, Scout has a boat floating down the river that accidentally goes over a waterfall. It gets rescued by dolphins that guide it safely back to town. Carly, her cat Smidge, teamed up with a squirrel named Acorn to create a pie. And then Micaiah had too much ice cream, but thanks to her mom feeding her tea, she got better. And that allowed her, of course, to eat more ice cream. For Hannah, there was a family of red foxes that went to the Washington County Fair. They dressed up in party hats and they entered the dance contest, which of course they won. And Keenan imagined the Lollipop Sisters that threw a party that included a magic bottle, and as the candies and cookies fell out of it, they changed colors and flavors. But of course, if they went back in the bottle, they lost their color and flavor. So each student designed their pages, and they created the nesting sheets for the parts. They cut them out and assembled them into their working models. And, it's just hard to explain the excitement that this book generated with the students. They laughed, they sang, the parents got involved, and in the end, we ended up with this amazing Whatchamacallit book.
Okay, and Ed, do you want me to show the photos now?
No, but just a minute. Now, the premise of this book is that each student would make a story with 4 scenes, and they would make 10 copies and we put them all together. And you might wonder, how is it that I happen to have a copy if each kid got a copy? Well, it's because in addition to the copies that they made, I made an additional 6 copies of all 39 pop-ups, and their copies are red. My copy is blue. There were 6 additional ones, 3 for the adults. I got a copy. Ruth Sauer, who was my co-conspirator on this project, and Carolyn Chadwick, who made the cases. We got copies. And then one went to the Salem Library, one went to the school library, and one was auctioned off to the community center, and it sold for $150. No one could believe a book would be that worth that much money. There are 9 stories times 4, so there's 36 pop-ups. But then the 37th is the title page. Now, so I want to thank Tom McMorris, who let us use his photograph of the kids at the time. And I also need to shout out to Ruth Sauer, who ran the gallery, and we're going to talk about her in a minute. But for now, Emily, if you would show photo 1. Are we at photo 1? Okay, this was taken just a few weeks ago. These are 3 of the students who were involved in this project 11 years ago. So this is where they are now. In the center is Carly. And in fact, this was at an exhibition of her paintings. She has graduated with a degree in art from SUNY, the State University of New York, New Paltz, in studio art painting. And with her on the left is Lucy, and Lucy graduated from the University of Vermont with a degree in statistics. So Kyra, if you ever need an assistant, I've got someone to help you. And on the right is Scout. She graduated from Cornell with a degree in engineering physics and is currently working on a PhD in applied physics. Now, these are incredibly successful, and maybe because they had wonderful parents, but I think it's because of this pop-up book that they did. So if you come back to me, I just wanted to quickly point out that this is one, whoops.
Ed, there you are.
Yeah, so this is one of Carly's pop-ups that she did. And then we, the turtle, this is Lucy. And Lucy got so involved in this. You know, we printed these on this cheap printer that was in the studio, and we couldn't use metallic, we couldn't photograph metallic paper. So she cut out 40 metallic crowns to be used in each of her pop-up pages. And Scout was the first one to get it done. And look at this wonderful pop-up. This is just a box fold with one V-fold. But boy, does that show a boat falling over the waterfall or what? So these, I have to tell you, that was a very exciting project that we worked on. And this is one of my favorite books in the collection. Now, let's go back to photo number 2. And this was taken about a month ago. This is Ruth Sauer. And Ruth owned the North Main Gallery in Salem. And what an incredible supporter of the book arts and of movable books Ruth was. It was because of Ruth that Sean Sheehy came to Salem. I don't think Sean Sheehy had ever taught making pop-up vegetables at a fruit stand before with chickens in the background. But
First time.
Everybody came. Paul Johnson came. You know, Paul Johnson is the top of the list for me. And you know, he started teaching in 1966. He started making artist books in 1986. He's published all kinds of how-to books, including most recently new pop-up paper models. But Paul Johnson, and all of his success, his one and only solo show in the United States was in Salem at the North Main Gallery. You know, I hear about the stories about Harvard and Yale, and you know, what are they doing? But the other thing about Ruth, I mean, it wasn't just Paul and Sean, but Paula Krieg showed there, and Joe Renbeck, and Susan Bonthram from the Otter Pond Bindery. I mean, she really loved books. And Ruth is now in an assisted living facility in Woodstock, Vermont. It's a 2-hour drive, so I don't get to see her very often. But when I do, we just have the most wonderful times together. And if you would show us photo number 3, this is Ruth. And if you notice, she's working on a set of collaged panels. And these are going to be a collage quilt book that opens up as a traditional book, but it can also be opened zigzag fashion to create this amazing quilt of interconnected panels. So the kids from the pop-up book that I showed you, they ranged in age from 7 years old to 12. And here's Ruth at 84, still making wonderful books. So, you know, this is the wonderful things that happen with pop-ups and movable books. Now, this is where I say thank you and keep where I say thank you and keep popping up and making this wonderful thing, and to thank all my wonderful families and friends, which includes all of you, for turning out tonight. If you have any questions, I'm yours. And if you are short of time, I have a suggestion. So, I mean, if you have excess time.
Right. I believe actually that Paul Short has joined us.
Oh, good. Then that's all. Hooray! I have several of Paul's books. I love his books. He does amazing things with the Rizzo printer. So I'm looking forward to seeing his presentation. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Ed. So many happy faces and hellos and wows and wowzas and yahoos. Thank yous, and we love yous. You're such a valuable guy for us, Ed. Emily, do we have anyone that had a question that we need to pull out?
Newman had a question about the number of pages in the first book. Sorry, the book with the kids, but I think that Ed answered it. I think you said there were 38 or 9 pages. But aside from that, there's just much exclaiming.
Much exclaiming. Yes, 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 yes. I wasn't sure about Kathy Crosby. She wrote, "Love that cheeky fellow and the delicioso." I think I missed something. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Two of the pocket books.
It was
Gotcha.
one of the first ones with the taco.
Gotcha, the taco one. Right.
And then the system auto-corrected it to delicious, so I had to retype it. So.
Exactly. Super. Okay, and a lot of those things that Ed mentioned, especially his super fun giveaway. Don't wait too long. I think there's gonna be a lot of demand for those. All that's in the chat. Chat information is gonna go out when we send the link, so don't worry about having to write things down. You'll have a chance to get it delivered into your inbox in about 10 days, more or less. Super. Thanks, Ed. And indeed, Paul has joined us, and let us bring Paul around. And I'm going to introduce Paul. Paul Short received his MFA in New Media Art from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and his BFA in painting from the Kansas City Art Institute. He has been in numerous group shows in DC, Chicago, Kansas City, and New York City. His works usually engage the public in physical interactions and conversation that examine everyday experiences and cultural norms, often in humorous ways, through video, sculpture, books, and public art. His videos have been shown at the Museum of the Moving Image, the Phillips Collection, Corcoran College of Art and Design. He has participated in the Printed Matter art book fairs in New York City and Los Angeles, in addition to art book fairs in Detroit, Baltimore, and Kansas City. And let me roll down and find Paul. And then, Emily, do you see him faster than I do? It's how alpha works, right? Got it. Paul, it's all yours.
Welcome. So thank you. I had a minor health thing. I've been having like some weird like lightheadedness, and so I had to I just went to the emergency room earlier to get it checked out. It seems like so far it was just high blood pressure. So I apologize for being late because I came back and I was sitting on my couch making a book. So I luckily looked over and checked my phone and had a mini heart attack. And now I'm here. So want to apologize to the other presenters, Ed, and I'm sorry I missed your talks. But this is videoed, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. I am actually going to go ahead and share my screen because my screen looks very blurry. Actually, I'm going to go to my slides. And we are going to, let's see here. Oh, it is all hidden on this screen. How am I doing on time? How should I keep this a little bit shorter since I was a little late, or?
You can do your full 15, Paul.
Okay, cool. So thank you all for joining and checking me out here. Of course, it doesn't start in the right place. I'm pretty new to movable books. This is, I did the Kofi Book Arts residency at UF last year, and I took that opportunity to do something movable. So it's gonna be similar to the talk that I did there, but I'm gonna try and go into a little bit more detail about the book and my background a little bit. I'm starting with, I do a lot of books using the risograph. And over the last, I would say, I was introduced to the risograph printing machine in 2016, 2017. For those of you who aren't familiar, a risograph is kind of like, it kind of functions like it's like a mimeograph, or it functions like I think about it like a screen printer, but faster and cheaper. So you get that look and quality, but it's very, I think it just looks, you get that kind of ink quality. I'm starting with, I like instructions and rules. And so this was a book I did called Performances for Waiting in Line. Those of you who are familiar with Yoko Ono's, I think it's Banana Book, is that right? Am I getting it wrong now? It's Grapefruit, sorry. I'm getting my my fruits confused. But it's a little yellow book called Grapefruit, which is kind of like poetry that's kind of like instructions. And so I'm interested in those kinds of elements. So let's see if I can get this off here. And y'all were seeing me full screen, right? You're seeing all the book. Okay, cool. So this was a book called Performances for Waiting in Line that was very, I don't know, I have a lot of like weird ideas as an artist. And one day I was like, I really like waiting in line and thinking about different things you can do while you're waiting in line. And so this is probably the thickest book I've read. If you look over, if you look over here, it's like kind of bursting out of the staples. All right, let's try that again. I kind of grew up or came about doing art book fairs. Like I'm really, really obsessed with doing them. And this was a guide I made. I made a kind of a rough version of it in probably 2018, and then I expanded it in 2019 to provide basic advice on how to table and sell at art book fairs. And then I have started doing these sign-based books over the last few years where I designed them where they can be ripped out and given away as prints. So this is 8.5 by 11, you rip it out and it's 8 by 10. So this is not liking me. And then I've also been doing a lot of coloring books. So when I started the UF residency, I knew I wanted to focus on children's books. And so I started digging through their collection, going through hundreds of children's books, not really knowing what I was looking for. I would just go through their site and request as many different things as I could, which was endless. So I kind of gathered as much as I could. This is probably like my favorite book that I've made in the last few years, outside of the movable one. It's, green risograph ink. You can color it, rip it out, and kind of hang it up on your bedroom door. So it was the first kids book that I've done. And so I was really wanting to do something different. I've kind of been known as the sign guy for the last few years. And so I was like, I want to do something different. And I'm obsessed with risographs, so I'm also obsessed with laser cutters. I don't have one. I paid for access to one, but I was like, now is kind of my time to do something different. So this is a kind of a broad overview of just the things that I was attracted to when I was approaching the children's book collection. I just took pictures and video of anything that like interested me. This book, let's see here. I thought I had some more detail shots in here, but as I go on. Sure. So I became really obsessed with anything that was movable, scratch and sniff, fold outs, anything that spins. And I started doing, basically I looked at probably 100, 200 books and kind of looked, at the beginning, I was kind of looking for the different elements and instructions as part of the book. The kind of like instructions on how you're supposed to hold or use the book. And I was kind of starting, that was my starting point, was I was interested in these texts that weren't important, that you would kind of pass over, like see that the transparency lies flat against the picture or same as the preceding picture. And I don't know, I kind of just gathered a lot of these texts and kind of started playing around with them. You know, cut all the pieces into sections, paste, color, cut out. And I created a version at first that was a little, I don't know, it was kind of missing something, like it kind of was missing heart. And so I started digging through more books. I really love these kinds of playful, like you pick up something and something is revealed. I don't think I'm as good an artist as this artist with my books, because I was like, oh, this is so cool. I think my goal is to work towards something like this. But I became also like really interested in the elements and how they functioned. Oops. So this was kind of like an early draft of me kind of playing around with some of the stuff, kind of taking elements from different things and playing around. A lot of the sign books I do, I play with pattern, and I take that pattern, I take an image or a shape and I turn it into a pattern. And then when I print with the risograph ink, I'm usually trying to layer it with different colors to get color combinations that are interesting or fades that are interesting, sometimes trippy, sometimes not. These are just kind of screenshots of what I was working with and thinking that these were directions I wanted to go in. But like I said, there was a little bit of like heart missing. So like, I like these words, but they kind of, they don't have as much meaning as I wanted them to. I also started thinking that I wanted to tell a story of some kind. Narrative isn't really a key part of the books that I do. You know, I'll have a collection of signs that are based around a certain theme. So there is kind of a narrative in there, but it's a little, you kind of, it's more of a feeling you have to kind of gather. So this is kind of, I would basically take everything in Illustrator and then image trace it and then kind of play around with it. Sometimes it led to some interesting things, sometimes it didn't. You know, like this is some of the birds that you'll see down below. And the images I'm showing here are images that I actually will use in my book. So I took images from the children's books in that collection, primarily ones that were out of copyright. I mean, I know that there is, you know, I can play around and mix them up, but I kind of wanted to deal with, I just want to be able to have full reign and kind of use the images. So I kind of had the working draft, and I realized I was really interested in this text of to hold in place. I think a lot of that comes from the pandemic, you know, and kind of having to hold in place and stay. And so I kind of, from there, you know, I was like, well, I have kind of a title, and that kind of helped kind of pull forward what I was doing. I realized at a certain point that I had lots of images of birds. And so I just really went for it. So this is kind of like my Illustrator working file and kind of playing with the text and the images, but really, really focusing on the birds. I will say I live in North Florida, and we bought a house in 2020. And I have a lot of native plants, and there are a lot of birds. So I think a lot of it was based off of what I was seeing, but also kind of like what was around me. So I have 5 risograph machines, and at the time I was ready to make my book, none of them were working. So I was very fortunate that there's a press that does letterpress and risograph in Sarasota, Florida, or actually in St. Pete. It's called Print St. Pete. And they were very fortunate enough to let me come down there and use their machine, which was actually much more reliable than my machine. Their registrations for their images were a lot better. I'm used to having tons of problems, but that's with the newer machines, you don't have those issues. I will say I spent $600 on paper that I really wanted to use. But when I got down there, it just didn't quite work in the machine. Sometimes I can get this Canson edition paper to work in the risograph machine and it works perfectly. Other times, not so much. So of course, when I was on a deadline and trying to make a book and drove 3 hours down, nothing worked. But I kind of always come overly prepared. So I came with enough paper to print 3 books if I needed to. So I always kind of bring different paper. This is like I think it's Nihon. It's like a vellum 67-pound paper. So I knew it was thick enough that I do prints on this paper. So I knew that it would hold up and would have like a nice like feel to it. Oops, come on. For those of you who aren't familiar with the risograph, you put a layer over you put a black and white image on the glass. I don't use a computer to connect it up. I'm a kind of a child of the 80s and 90s where I like photocopiers and kind of playing with them. And so I manipulate the images on my computer, but I like using the machine itself and not connecting it. So here's kind of what that looks like. And so there's a little thermal layer in there that's like, you have a drum for every color. So if you don't have those colors, you can't do them. I then made this and I was like, okay, I sat it down, I looked at it all out, and I kind of kept playing around with it and realizing that maybe I needed to do some reprints. Thankfully, my risograph printer got fixed, but I bought a corner puncher. I was originally going to use Chicago screws, but I decided not to. And then I decided that I really needed to have the laser cut elements. So I actually ended up going back twice because I realized I didn't do enough the first time. So I worked with a laser engraving place here that's done some other sign-based work for me. If this is too behind the scenes, let me know. I'm just kind of giving you everything. And this is the book. Sorry, this is a long time to get to that. But so the book is called To Hold in Place, and I was really interested in telling kind of a narrative story that was still kind of aphorisms in a way, that's still using those instructional text, but taking those instructional texts and telling a story. This image here of these birds kind of mid-flight, I was really like obsessed with, and To Hold in Place kind of felt like it captured that moment. So most of the text is either printed or it's laser cut. And I like where you can kind of see the elements of the background behind. That does fold out. I don't know why that image is not there. And then this was kind of the first image. This image was from the children's books where the kids were pushing a snowball, a huge mound of snow, and I was like, oh, well, that would make a perfect little movable. And then I was really interested in having this, basically playing around with the different kinds of movable elements I could add to the book. They're all still very rudimentary. Like I said, this was my first book, so with movable, so I was kind of using it as an opportunity to kind of try out different things. And I was really interested in this like little lift up elements in the other books. So I liked having, you know, playing with the scale and kind of having these other little elements to that. And the one benefit, I would say, benefit and downfall of the risograph is that you get like little imperfections. So there's the little specks and stuff you see here are kind of like just kind of the noise of the machine. Maybe there was dust, maybe there was a piece of hair, but sometimes the alignments can be a little off. But I kind of just like those elements, and I feel like it gives it a little bit of character. And so, you know, for me, this book, you know, it went through many different changes. I had no idea what I was starting from. Usually when I start a book, I have a clear idea of what the subject matter is, and I have a collection of text usually that I've been working on for, I keep text in a notes thing on my phone, and I work on that for sometimes a year or two when I'm just like walking in the park and kind of, you know, I have an ongoing thing of like what I want to make. So for me, this book was a very different in that it kind of pushed me really out of my comfort zone. And like, I have become really obsessed with movable stuff now. And I'm kind of like trying to figure out different elements that I can use in the sign-based books of how I can have them move and kind of play with them. And that is it. I would like to again apologize for arriving so late. Usually I'm healthier, so I'm gonna stop the share here. Or actually here, I'll show you guys a little bit more of what I do if you've got a moment.
2 minutes, Paul.
2 minutes? Oh, that's perfect. So I do a lot of science stuff, but I also do, you know, in the books I've done, I'm gonna go back. I figured, well, I've got another second. This is some of the books that I've made in the last year, 2 years. Yeah, I guess it's since 2020. The coloring books. I'm actually reprinting or reprint this and recutting it. That was what I was doing when I got home, and I was like, oh, I gotta get this done. And then, you know how that goes. Let's see. I've also got been doing the coloring books, the How to Art Fair book. I also did a book on driving as my art practice a number of years ago. Book documenting a performance I did. Something. So I was going to end here on the first book I made that I feel like really pushed me out of my comfort zone in a similar way, which was these are all older books, but this book here, which was 5-star ratings, where I basically paid people to review my artist website, and it was a letterpress book, and probably one of the weirdest books I've made, but it was a really fun book to do to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone, similar to the movable book. So I'm going to end there. Are there any questions?
I am not seeing any questions in the chat, but I want to say that Kyra has put in links to Paul's website. There's several different links, and also I'd like to say I'm really glad that you're okay.
Yeah.
And there's also a link that Kyra put in about the risograph for those of you who are not familiar with those machines. They're kind of becoming quite popular these days. But
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I really appreciate you going through your process, because I think that's one of the things that we get to explore here is sort of the behind the scenes of the books as well as the books themselves.
Yeah, I mean, when I was going through the collection, there were lots of things that I was like attracted to, and I was like, well, now I need to be able to do that, you know. And with the risograph, I am kind of limited because it's 11 by 17, and that's kind of as big as the book can be. So actually, my book was a little bit bigger than I'd made before. It's 11 by 15. I was like, well, I'm not going to take this to an art book or zine fair in the way that I'm going to take my other books. There's much more time and money and effort put into it. So I was like, well, I'll make it bigger because, you know, like I can't do it all. So, you know, for me, the risograph restrictions are something that I work within my books. I kind of like using the restrictions of what I can and can't do. And actually the being able to laser cut and push like the movable aspects of this have kind of infected my practice. You know, like right now I'm only reprinting older books. My wife is pregnant. She's 23 weeks as of yesterday. And I'm pretty much aware that my bookmaking is going to slow down next year, but I want to have quantities of the books that I've made kind of ready to go, because I do wholesale at various stores and stuff. So I'm kind of like in the like brainstorming phase, because I like the kids' books and I want to do more, and I like the movable elements. It's pushed me into a different territory that I feel is kind of a fun thing to play, is a fun place for me to be right now.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, we would love for you to feel embraced by this community, and more, go look at some more books and show us more. Super
Definitely.
fun also to see a lot of these familiar images kind of sampled and rearranged, and just really very fun to look at.
Thank
and
you.
we are at time, everybody, but Emily's got something.
There's one question that I want to see if Paul can answer. And it's how many copies do you make of a book? Are your books open editions? Do you just print them as you need them, or do they have limited numbers?
So usually there are limited numbers. So for the first movable book I did, I capped it at like 25. You know, the benefit of the risograph printing machine is that you can do a lot. You know, so for the How to Art Book Fair book, I did the first draft of it, which was like a little thinner zine. I did like 100 of them, and I gave most of those away. But when I did the kind of like the more definitive edition, second edition, I did 600, and that's the most I've ever made. I don't know that I would do that again, but I tend to do, right now, my average seems to be 75 to 150 of the books I do. You know, like the coloring books I use, like a French paper company's Pop Tone. And as you guys probably all know, the prices of everything are going up. And I've had to think about how I use my paper and how much I spend on what makes the most use financially and how I structure it. But I try to do anywhere from 75 to 150 on average.
Super, thank you, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you.
So everybody, a few things before we say goodbye. One, of course, is that if you're a subscriber, and we're happy to have you here, but we do have a quarterly newsletter, and if you become a member, you can have that too, if you'd like. Jump on over to our website, movablebooksociety.org, and you can subscribe. Also, as we mentioned earlier, all of our Zooms, including the make and takes, are all available on the Zoom page of our website. So if you want to go back and look at the archives, feel free. They're all there and available. We're going to get together again on November 12th. We have no idea what's happening, do we, Emily? We'll figure it out.
Not a single clue.
Not a single clue. Actually, I have two small clues.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell. Okay. Anything else, Emily, before we say goodnight?
No, that's it. You're going to say goodnight and then you're going to pause.
Good night.